I'm very pleased to welcome this afternoon Ajay Piramal, Chairman of the Piramal Group. Mr. Piramal, great to have you on NDTV Profit. Since the most recent news development has been the acquisition by Piramal Enterprises of Ash Stevens. Can you run us through the strategic importance of the Ash Stevens acquisition?
So Ash Stevens is a leading producer in the field of high-potent APIs, and it is a US-based FDA-approved facility. As you know that the future really is in high-potent drugs, and almost 25% of all the new drugs that are approved today by the FDA are high-potency drugs. Mainly it is in the field of oncology, and Ash Stevens caters to this through its facility that we have, two facilities that we have in Michigan over here. So it really fits in with the whole strategy of Piramal Enterprises to serve customers in niche areas. As you know, we are in the CRAM space, and 2 years ago, we acquired another facility which was doing injectables in Lexington, Kentucky. So now we have a whole suite of facilities, whether it's in the US, whether it's in Canada, Europe, and India, which can serve all these customers.
Mr. Piramal, for the benefit of our viewers, can you just walk us through the financial contours of this transaction? So this facility today has, we have invested $42.5 million in it. And this gives us access, as I said, to all the customers and the technology that this plant and this company, Ash Stevens, has. It has a turnover of approximately $20 million annually, and we employ about 77 people in the US. Mr. Piramal, over the next 1 to 2 years, what approach are you going to be taking when it comes to Ash Stevens? Do you intend to maintain status quo in operations or, scale up quite fast?
So the way we look at Ash Stevens is, first of all, we will integrate it with our existing facilities. We already do a lot of early work on developing APIs in our facilities in Canada as well as in India, so this will become a part of that. And we have in Ash Stevens, they are supplying products to 14 drugs which have got FDA approval in the US. So we'll continue to supply this, and we expect to then again ramp this up. But that would take a little more than 6 to 8 months, because at that time we'll be in integration.
You've been fairly opportunistic about your acquisitions, and, I'm not asking for details, but I am interested in getting a broader philosophy or sense of your acquisition strategy. So, therefore, the question, what are the current gaps in your pharma portfolio?
We have three pillars as far as the pharmaceuticals are concerned. One is the pharma solutions or CRAMs. The other is critical care, and the third is OTC. Both the pharma solutions as well as critical care are international global businesses, and we have been growing them through organically as well as through acquisitions. In the OTC business is a India business, and there also we have grown both organically and through acquisitions. In fact, in the last 6 months or 8 months, we have done acquisitions of 3 groups of brands in OTC. So our focus has always been to grow in these niche areas, both through acquisitions as well as organically.
Okay, so that's Piramal Enterprises, and I wanted to shift gears a little bit, because in a recent interview, you've referred to the fact that you're evaluating a new business entry, and I wanted to just get a broad sense of the filters that you apply when you're evaluating a new business segment.
So when we're talking of a new vertical, we are first of all not talking about in Piramal Enterprises. So let me make that clear, because sometimes shareholders and investors get confused.
So that would be totally independent of Piramal Enterprises. So that is one criteria. The second one would be there where we feel that there is a long-term growth potential in that business, taking into account, in all probability, it would be a business which is more India-related, because I think we have a lot of global businesses and we could increase our presence in India. And I believe that the whole Indian GDP growth story is still going to pan out in a better way. So it would be India. It would be where we feel that there is a long-term growth potential, and it is a business that we can add value to, and it will obviously give the right returns on equity.
Okay, but what are the revenue projections and the profit expectations that you consider, you know, a sort of funnel that it must pass through to make the cut from an investment perspective?
So what we would first look at it, that do we think that it has a return on equity somewhere in the 20 to 25%? I think that is important. There must be some, if it's an acquisition that we'll do, then there should be some size. It can't be too small an acquisition. So I think these would be the criteria. And if you need a 20-25% ROE, probably the growth rate should be somewhere in the mid-teens to the till 15 to 20%.
Okay, and since I don't get this opportunity often, I'm going to ask you about the REALTY prospects, how you assess them today, because, you know, you follow that space closely. Where are we in the real estate cycle right now, in your assessment?
So in the REALTY space, I think that what is clearly being coming out is that there is a difference now between the reputed players, between the also-rans. Till now, if you say that in real estate, there was no barrier to entry. Virtually anybody could enter the space. Now, with all the new act that has formed on real estate, because the consumer becoming more demanding, because markets are not as good as they were in the past, and you can't just get price increases because of just sheer passage of time. What we find is that only the good companies, the companies which have a brand, companies which make a good product, and companies which have the power to sustain over a few years their construction, only those will succeed. So we find that clearly both in the residential and commercial. And for a while, for several years, commercial had actually slowed down. I'm seeing that there's now a revival for commercial projects as well.
Interesting. You're noting a revival in commercial projects. Finally, and the most recent, what explains your interest in cab aggregator U2?
No, that's just one of our personal investments in something that we feel has a good future. That's really will be passive investors there.
Well, Mr. Piramal, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us on NDTV. We always value your time.
Thank you.